Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to show you how we can set up Swagger documentation for our Express.js application. I have also TypeScript installed, but if you do not have TypeScript, it will work for you. So let's directly jump. So let me show you the entry point of the application first. We have server.ts. So in this, there are few imports. Then we are creating the server from HTTP library. Then I'm declaring the port that comes from the env. I've also created a wrapper around env. And then I'm just connecting to MongoDB and making my server available, like making my server listen to the request. Inside this, you will see I have a function call which is Swagger documentation. Inside it, I am passing in the app and the port. So let's see what's inside the Swagger documentation. So in this, we have Swagger implementation, like the API routes for Swagger. So if you will see the Swagger docs function that we have called in the server.ts, inside it, I'm taking in the application and the port, and then I'm making a route which is /API, and then I'm just adding a middleware which is Swagger UI.serve, and then the setup action. So all this is coming from the Swagger UI, which is Swagger UI Express library. And then I've created an options object. So first let me show you the routes. So there are two routes, which is API and docs.json. Inside docs.json, we get complete Swagger documentation inside a JSON file. So in this, I'm just sending the response for Swagger spec, which is basically using Swagger.js doc for getting the documentation from the API routes, which is basically from the JS doc that we add above the route. And then it is few basic options, definitions, and all, the name of the name of the application, and then the version. And I have just declared a security, like we need the security for bearer oath. You can add multiple things here. You can also add few schemas and all if you need to make it global. And then this is the main thing, which is basically APIs. It is defined as, like, it is, if we are in the local environment, then we are considering the routes that are inside the src routes folder, which is basically this folder. We have currently only one route, so from this it is taking all the files which is ending with .ts. So I currently have only one file, which is cars.ts. So in the API route, it will register the routes of this directory, which is routes directory. And if I'm not in local, which is either in development environment or production or staging or any other environment, I'm taking from the routes which is inside the dist folder, which is basically the output of the build. Like when we run npm run build or tsc build our application using tsc, it converts or compiles all our TypeScript file into JavaScript files, and then from it I'm extracting the documentation, and then I'm just logging a line which is basically docs are available on this and this API route, and then I'm exporting default the function, and from this it is being called here, so the API route is being registered. And now if I move on to show you the browser, so let me first run the server. I have already run it, but I will run it once again. npm run dev is compiling the TypeScript file, and then it shows docs available on 4000/API. So let's move to the route. Follows 4000. So to confirm our server is running, I will just refresh. It says can't get because we don't have any route on slash. So our Swagger documentation is on /API. So we get the name of the application, the version of the application, and the UI is generated by Swagger. So we have one route which is cars, which I will show you now. So our Swagger is being up, like our Swagger is working fine. If I just move to the JSON file of Swagger, I move to docs.json and print pretty, then it shows all the paths and response and everything, which I will show you in a while. Move back. I will go to the VS Code again. So we saw that our documentation is working fine, but how it is taking the route from, like how it is showing the cars route and all, let me show you now. So if I move to the routes folder, let me close the terminal, and then I have basically few sample routes, which is post and get, and then this is the JS doc for Swagger. This is the syntax of Swagger. You can see it anywhere, or I will just post the link to the documentation. And so now you will see, like, we have /API/card. So let me show you how I have registered the routes. So we have seen server.ts. Let me go to app.ts, which is basically importing app from here. We are importing app and then using it. Let me go to app. So we are importing few libraries, then setting up the .env file, then using the express function to create the express application, and then we have few middlewares. I'm using Morgan for logger and all, and then we have all the routes defined inside this folder. So inside this, if we'll go, we'll just see the express.router is defined. We have a router.use, which is basically defining all the routes. So slash API slash cars will be prefixed with all these routes. So now if we go, it takes us to the cars.ts. So this is how the cars route is being shown, slash app slash cars. So inside our Swagger documentation, we need to define, like the JS doc, we need to define the Swagger decorator, then the API slash cars, the API route, then the method, and then summary and few more things. So we can also include a request body and all, which I will show in a while. So with this, our documentation will be up and running in Swagger, like in the UI. So if I just make some error in this and save the file, the my server is also complaining like it is not a valid YAML syntax, so it needs to be a valid YAML syntax. So I make it back to the normal. So if there is any issue in the spacing and all, it will just not show the documentation. So take care of it. So let me go back to the browser. Let me show you what route we were seeing. So this is a post route inside this. So we can actually run the routes using the Swagger documentation. We don't need any Postman or Thunder client for hitting our API. There is a button named try it out. So once we hit it, we got a button to execute. Once we click on execute, it will show us the curl request that it sent, the request URL, and then also the response body. Like this is the response body that we got. Let me show you how we are getting this response. So here you can see I am just sending the response in a JSON with status code of 201, and this is the data that I'm sending, success true. Let's move to the Chrome again. So this way we have also response format. Like in this format we will get the response, and if it is a 400 status, it is invalid input. We can define other statuses also. So now let's see how we can add. So now if you want to add some request body to the car, I have added a comment. Like I've added the YAML structure for it, which is basically request body. Inside this I am adding application JSON as content, then schema is of type object, and there is only one property which is name is name, and it is required. So if I move to Chrome now, and if I just refresh, you will see like on click on try it now, we get a block for adding the request body. So in this we can add anything, and then click on execute, it will give us the response. So this is how you can add a route in the documentation. So now I have added JS documentation for API route of get of cars. So this is the route, and this is the method. These are summaries and responses and all. So in this I have defined an array. It will return an array. In this, each item would be of type object with properties ID and name. ID is a string, name is also in string. So let's go to the browser. Let's see what we got. If I just refresh, I got get all cars. On clicking on it, I will see the response, like it is giving an array with ID and name. Clicking on try it out, I will hit on execute. It gives me data, because let me show you what I have returned. So this is what I have returned inside JSON. I have returned data, so which we do not need. So according to our documentation, it needs this thing, which is ID is a string. Let's name ID1. Then name is car name 1. On hitting save, let's go to browser. Let's just refresh and try to hit the API. On hitting the API, we get our proper response, which was expected in the schema. That's how you can add Swagger inside your Express TypeScript application. I hope you like the video. So if you like the video, do hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more such videos. I'm going to create a series on Express with TypeScript. Stay tuned.